Now it is time for the last word with Lawrence O'Donnell, where I'm told Katy Tur is in for Lawrence. I say good evening to you, and if you have time, I have a quick question for you.
Sure, go ahead. I'm all yours, Ari.
Yeah, you have time?
Sure.
I was going to ask you, Katy, because I always love talking with you. Do you know what is black and white and red all over?
A newspaper.
It's a teleprompter.
Also a teleprompter. Ari Melber, wow, you are a very clever man.
I wish you a fantastic show and a great weekend, my friend Katy Tur.
Ari Melber, good to take it from you for once. Instead of me handing off, I get to get the awkward moment where you try to throw me off my game. I like it.
I would never try to throw you off your game. I am accustomed to having you toss to me. Sometimes it's 6. I guess you're right. This time we've slowed down, flipped it, and reversed it.
Ari Melber, surrender to the flow, my friend. I'm Katy Tur, in for Lawrence O'Donnell. One of Donald Trump's biggest denials about Russia may be unraveling tonight amid the civil war between the president and his former lawyer. Today, the president lashed out at Michael Cohen after reports that Cohen is willing to tell Robert Mueller that Donald Trump knew in advance about the 2016 Trump Tower meeting where the Russians promised to deliver dirt on Hillary Clinton. Cohen's account would directly contradict the president's repeated denials that he knew nothing about that meeting. Donald Trump tweeted this morning, "I did not know of the meeting with my son, Don Jr. Sounds to me like someone is trying to make up stories in order to get himself out of an unrelated jam." Trump added, taxi cabs, maybe? An apparent reference to the federal investigation of Cohen. The question now, what did Donald Trump know? The president's story about the Trump Tower meeting has already shifted. His lawyers claimed he was not involved in a statement falsely claiming the meeting was about adoptions. Then they admitted in a memo that he dictated the statement. Now, the strategy for Donald Trump is to attack Michael Cohen to boost the president's credibility. Trump allies are gaming out how to, quote, bury Cohen, according to the Daily Beast. The first attempt did not go so well. Rudy Giuliani tried to claim that the longtime Trump Organization lawyer is a liar.
I expected something like this from Cohen. He's been lying all week. I mean, he's been lying for years. There's nobody that I know that knows him that hasn't warned me that if he's back is up against the wall, he'll lie like crazy because he's lied all his life.
But today, Team Trump was reminded that the same Rudy Giuliani said this about Michael Cohen just a few months ago.
He doesn't have any incriminating evidence about the president or himself. The man is an honest, honorable lawyer.
Cohen's story may be just as dangerous for Donald Trump Jr. as it is for the president. Cohen reportedly wants to tell Mueller that Donald Trump learned of the Trump Tower meeting from Don Jr. Don Jr. has already told a different story.
Did you tell your father anything about this?
No. It was such a nothing. There was nothing to tell. I mean, I wouldn't have even remembered it until you start scouring through the stuff. It was literally just a wasted 20 minutes, which was a shame.
It is not a crime to lie to Sean Hannity. It could be a crime, though, to lie to Congress. In September, Don Jr. told the Senate Judiciary Committee that he, quote, never discussed the meeting with his father. Today, Democrat Patrick Leahy of the Judiciary Committee said he wants Don Jr. to come back before the committee to answer questions, again, in public, regarding Cohen's claims. On the same day that we learned Michael Cohen may provide key evidence about potential collusion, the New York Times reported that Robert Mueller is examining Donald Trump's tweets as part of his wide-ranging obstruction inquiry. The Times reports Mueller is scrutinizing Trump's tweeted attacks on Attorney General Jeff Sessions and former FBI Director James Comey under a section of the U.S. Code titled Tampering with a Witness, Victim, or an Informant. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reported that the Trump Organization's finance chief, Alan Weisselberg, has been called to testify before a federal grand jury in the Michael Cohen probe. A former Trump Organization employee told me Alan Weisselberg, quote, knows where all the financial bodies are buried within the Trump Organization. Interesting choice of words there. Joining us now is Jason Johnson, politics editor at TheRoot.com. Also joining us, Ruth Marcus, deputy editorial page editor and columnist at The Washington Post, and Daniel Goldman, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. All three are MSNBC contributors. Ruth, let's start with you. Credibility is going to be the key portion here, or the key takeaway. Donald Trump has repeatedly lied in public. It's on the record. We have his statements. We have his contradictions. Michael Cohen, while many would say he's not trustworthy, doesn't have credibility because he worked for Donald Trump, and I don't know, presumably he did things that were not truthful for Donald Trump or said things that were not truthful. We don't have a lot of on-the-record lies or falsehoods, if you want to use that word, from Michael Cohen. The only one, Ruth, that I can think of is that he told Chris Cuomo that he wasn't recording him when he actually was. That was a story that came out a couple days ago. So in the credibility fight, Ruth, who do you think is going to have the upper hand?
Well, in the credibility fight, you have to ask a few questions. One is, who has the greater motive to lie here? One of the things we've learned, say, from Robert Mueller is if you go to him or his investigators with a false story and lie to them, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. So if Michael Cohen is not telling the truth here because he's looking for a deal from Robert Mueller and he peddles an untrue story, he's going to get himself into a heap of trouble. On the other hand, President Trump has some motive here to lie because it would be a very big deal, in fact, if A, he knew about this meeting and if he had been lying to the American people about it all along. The second thing, and Dan can speak to this, is if you've got a witness who or somebody who may have some credibility problems, you're going to look for corroborating evidence. What do the other people who allegedly heard this say? What happened with those phone calls around the before and after the meeting to the blocked number? Who were they? What was Don Jr.'s practice in terms of telling things to his father? So it's not a simple he said swearing contest. You can bring in other facts to buttress your case and to figure out who you should believe here.
Daniel, what else would they look for?
Well, one of the things you want to use to assess the credibility of someone is generally people don't lie against their self-interest. So if Michael Cohen were to get on the stand and he were to admit to all sorts of wrongdoing and crimes, and he were to say, and by the way, these other people did those with me, generally you credit somebody like that because he's admitting to his own criminal conduct. If he's saying, oh, I'm pointing the finger at somebody else, I didn't do it, then that's more speaking in your own self-interest, and there is more motive to lie.
But right now, isn't it in Michael Cohen's self-interest to go out and claim these sorts of things in order to make it appear that he is more he's more of a valuable informant or cooperator, I should say, against Donald Trump with the special counsel or the SDNY? If he's more valuable to cut a deal with rather than somebody just to try to prosecute.
So it's interesting because we love this. You know, we're sitting on television and Michael Cohen is saying, oh, Donald Trump was there, and Rudy Giuliani saying he's a liar. This normally only happens in a courtroom when there's cross-examination and someone calls the cooperating witness a liar. It almost never happens in public. And the reason is because most cooperating witnesses are guided by their lawyers and they know to be quiet in public. Michael Cohen, if he's acting in his self-interest, will be quiet because this is not helping him at all. You
have a piece in the Daily Beast today where you say free advice for Michael Cohen from ex-federal prosecutors. Shut up.
Yes. He's not helping his cause by doing this. And to your point about, oh, let's flag this for the SDNY or for Mueller that I have this information, he doesn't have to do that in public. He has an incredibly able and capable, experienced lawyer who is very used to having these conversations with prosecutors, who are very used to having those conversations with defense lawyers. That's the proper way to do it. The way he's doing this in public is only hurting him.
Regardless, it is getting ugly, certainly in public. Here's a new report from Emily Jane Fox of Vanity Fair. There is an increasing sense inside Cohen world that Trump's former attorney is ready to torch the man he once vowed to take a bullet for, telling allies about a, quote, treasure trove of material that he could unleash to create headaches for Trump. There's a lot more to come, he has said. There's a lot. Jason, what do you think of that?
I mean, the thing is, Katie, all he's doing, Cohen is really just confirming what most people with common sense would have assumed about President Trump anyway. Remember, prior to Cohen, Donald Trump used to hang around with Roy Cohn. I mean, it's not like he has a history of dealing with ethical and responsible lawyers. So if this guy was his consigliere, if this guy was his fixer, it is highly likely that Cohen has all sorts of dangerous information about him that he can reveal. And the reason that this is playing out in public is because, one, a lot of these guys like getting on TV, and two, this has become sort of a big spitting match between these gentlemen. There are egos involved. I mean, Cohen is not necessarily any more ethical than President Trump, but he may have some valuable information, and that's why this is playing out in such a loud, ugly way. It's why Rudy Giuliani is out there running his mouth and contradicting himself every other day, because none of these men, regardless of what their technical positions are, whether that's president, a lawyer for the president, or a lawyer protecting himself during an investigation, seem to really respect the rule of law or the norms of how an investigation is supposed to happen.
Ruth, there's also this. The Associated Press is reporting that lawyer, that Trump Tower lawyer, the meeting that was between Don Jr. and the Russian lawyer, Natalia Veselnitskaya, is a lot more well-connected to the Kremlin than she claims to be. She was a ghostwriter for top Russian government lawyers and received key assistance from the Interior Ministry in a case involving a client. I mean, she's not being honest about her connections to the Kremlin. There were problems with the initial statement about what was actually happening at the Trump Tower meeting. Donald Trump saying he had nothing to do with it, and then it coming out from his lawyers that he actually dictated that statement. What else are we going to learn, Ruth?
Can't wait to find out. But, we were told in the original solicitation to Donald Trump Jr. precisely who she was. She was identified as a Russian government lawyer who was offering information about Hillary Clinton because the Russian government, Donald Trump Jr. was told, wanted to see Donald Trump elected president. Don't need more than that. What would a responsible, patriotic person do in a situation like that? They would call the FBI. At the very least, they would say, no, thank you. What did we have? We had this meeting. And then what do we know? Donald Trump helped to orchestrate a lie about it when it was discovered. Then he lied, and his people lied, his lawyers lied, about whether he was involved in orchestrating that lie. So now we need to find out, is he lying or telling the truth about whether he knew about the meeting at the time?
Guys, we also have something of an anniversary to celebrate. It's now 2 years to the day that Donald Trump called on Russia to find Hillary Clinton's missing 30,000 emails. And then I had this exchange with him. Let's look.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
You said the Russians, I welcome you to find those. You said I welcome them to find those 30,000 emails.
Well, they probably have them. I'd like to have them released.
But does that not give you pause?
No, gives me no pause. If Russia or China or any other country has those emails, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to see them.
Daniel, that date keeps coming up. It was in the Mueller indictment a couple weeks ago. We know that the investigation really got started to get interesting into the Trump campaign and what they had to do with Russia because of that exchange, because people in the intelligence community were like, what is going on? Why is he saying that? Why would Donald Trump call on Russia specifically to find Hillary Clinton's emails?
Prosecutors are trained not to believe in coincidences. And that doesn't mean that they don't exist, but you're always skeptical of coincidences. So when you see him say something like that, and then it later materializes that Russia actually did have those emails, you naturally ask yourself, well, what did he know? And that is, I'm sure, a significant focus of the investigation.
How hard
but the same is true with this,
How
Katie.
hard is it, though, to make that connection? What sort of proof will they need to make that a definitive connection?
Well, look, there's going to be internal emails, memos, text messages. There's all sorts of documentary evidence in this day and age with communications. And that will also be the case as relates to this Trump Tower meeting, when Trump promises a big speech on Hillary Clinton that is supposed to follow this meeting, and then the meeting is a fail and that speech never happens. The same kind of thing is going on in both instances.
Daniel Goldman, thank you very much. Ruth Marcus, Jason Johnson, we appreciate it. Coming up, President Trump and Vladimir